All right, and we are live. Hi, guys. Welcome, and thank you for joining. This is Drink and Creep. My name's Lacey, your host, and tonight we're doing something a little different. I have some guests here. Some of them you may have already known, and another one's new. We're doing a little panel discussion over a very popular movie that we came across on the TikTok community. But before we go into that, I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. Whoever would like to go first.
I'm Dom, Horror Movie Mafia on TikTok and Instagram. I'm also a screenwriter, and I cannot wait to interview the mind who created Gwilliam.
I'm Monique, also known as Massacre Beauty on TikTok, and I'm super excited about this.
Well, I'm Brian Lonano, and this is...
I'm Tori Cook, Victoria Cook. Nice to be here tonight.
And I'm we're the co-writers and producers along with Kevin Daniel Lonano, and I'm the director of Gwilliam, among other short films like Crowhand, Attackazoids, Content the Lo-Fi Man, and Gwilliam's Tips for Turning Tricks into Treats.
So without further ado, everyone that's watching kind of gets the gist of it. You guys have all asked for this, so we brought it to you. Real quick, I just want to thank Dom for introducing me to this movie and for basically setting this up. Essentially, you asked me if I could bring him on, and I reached out to Brian. And thank you, Brian and Victoria, for joining us. I'm excited to dip in and talk about Gwilliam, of course. That's the main piece of everything, but also some of the other projects that you've done and so forth. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Dom ask questions first. Right? Or is that Monique?
If she wants to go first, if not, I can rip off a question, whatever.
Go ahead, the floor is all yours, Tom.
Okay. Well, the first question is, first, I just want to thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. This is truly awesome. My first question is, what inspired you to make Gwilliam?
Okay. So the idea of Gwilliam was like something that was birthed like in 2010. We had already made a couple of short films, my brother and I. He was hanging out with me while I was working an overnight shift, and he was sketching or tracing, not tracing, but like drawing a picture of like a child, but it came out completely distorted and wrong. And he kind of looked like a very old like baby man with like terrible lips, and one of the ears was like pointed, and he had thinning hair. So we were like, well, that's definitely not a kid. That's something like otherworldly. So we decided to give it a name, and we thought Gwilliam was a great name because we weren't sure if it was a real name. It turns out it actually is a real surname from like England. I found out that later when I was like, oh wow, there's people whose last names are Gwilliam. Those poor people. But Gwilliam, we felt, was such an appropriate name because like Gwill sort of has like this gaggy sound to it when you say it, and like swill, so Gwills, William, that's sort of how it came to be. And we sort of had this sort of neo-noir idea about a guy prowling at night looking for action, and then he stumbles across Gwilliam in an alleyway. And originally, when he meets him, it's not as pleasant as it turns out to be in the finished product. But and this is we never even wrote a script. We just had this idea. But when we came up with the idea, we definitely had the Gwilliam saying, "This is what you wanted, and you can forget your sins, but you can never forget your Gwilliam." Like those two things were completely thought out fully in 2010. But we decided it wasn't the right time to make that movie because I was just trying to get my, film career of sorts going. Like I have a job, but I make short films on the side. And I think I was working on my 4th or 5th short at the time. So it wasn't until we made Crowhand, which is like a 2.5-minute film that got into a lot of film festivals, that it was Tori that said, you should probably make Gwilliam now. I think now is the right time to do it. So between my brother and I and Tori, we all wrote the script for Gwilliam. And the only change was, instead of it being a very unpleasant experience, it became like the best thing this guy has ever experienced in his whole life. But yeah, that's sort of how Gwilliam was born. So Gwilliam is actually short film number 10 in my work, my body of work. Like I started making films in 2005, and it was like 10 years later in 2015 when we filmed Gwilliam.
That's so cool. It's thanks for sharing, and I just want to say thank you for giving us Gwilliam.
You're welcome.
Would you like to ask him a question, Monique? Ask them a question.
Yes. So, what inspired you to start making your own shorts, your own short films?
Well, I always wanted to make films. When I was 10, I decided that I wanted to make films. I saw Jurassic Park, and it was such a experience to see that on a big screen, especially the T-Rex scene, the first T-Rex scene. I remember that scaring my dad so much and having such a profound effect on him. So, like, in a way, I was really inspired to make stuff that would evoke that kind of reaction from people, and also to explore, like, I was a big fan of special effects, like not, Star Wars films and also the films of Tim Burton. So I always liked some stuff that was like a little spooky, a little sci-fi, lots of puppets and animatronics and visual effects and stuff like that. So I was always drawn to those types of films and those types of filmmaking skills. So a lot of my work incorporates practical gore effects, miniatures, camera tricks, like not optical because we never had the opportunity to like work with an optical printer on film, but a lot of compositing of like puppets against blue screen and things like that. So Gwilliam was obviously, my love of movies like Gremlins 2. So it was fun to like work with a puppet on the set. It's also difficult to work with puppets on set. They don't always like move the way you want them to move. Yeah, I was always drawn to that. And I think it was like when I was 16 or so, I was watching the Independent Film Channel when that used to be a thing. And they used to play short films. And I realized like, oh, films can also be short and not be feature length. So I was very, very drawn to that. And there was a lot of short animated films that I loved and were inspired by. So I've been working in that medium for like my whole life, pretty much. I'm thinking about features, but I love the short film medium so much. I think I've made about 17 short films in my whole career so far. So yeah, love short film.
I love that. I think it's great that you had a dream and you're following it, and it's something that you've wanted to do since you were a kid. Awesome. Not very many people follow through with what they want to do.
I know, it's always sad. It's always sad, like you want people to like try and you want them, and it also has to be, you also have to figure out like what does success mean to you? Like I'm not making a lot of money and I'm not like working in Hollywood, but I'm doing the kinds of films that I want to do. And I'm doing them because I have small budgets and I wind up paying them for myself, or I do a couple of crowdsource campaigns, but my budgets are always on the low side, which might explain why some things look clunky or not quite polished, but at least I'm doing exactly the kind of film that I want to do.
I agree. You're not selling out. You're not trying to people please or anything like that. You're doing your films the way you want to do them.
Yeah. I can't imagine people like wanting to give me money to do a Gwilliam film. Because we thought about it, like, what would a Gwilliam feature be like? And I was like, if there were to be a feature, it would be like the first 6 minutes of Gwilliam, and then the rest of it would be like this movie called Blue is the Warmest Color, where it's like the story of like two girls falling in love with each other, but it's like a 3-hour film. So I just imagine like Gwilliam being like the first 6 minutes, and then the rest of it is this tryst that they have, the up and down of their relationship, but it's like between a man and a goblin. That's like the only thing I can think of to do as far as like a feature version of that.
We would absolutely love.
Oh, that was one of my questions.
We would love it.
Yeah, I thought of scenes, like there was one scene that I had in my head where like they're in bed together, sort of in that glowing afterglow phase, and he does the thing where he like puts it in his beard, and the guy is like, "Why do you always do that?" And he's like, "I don't know, it's just what I do," and that's it. That's the end of the scene.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So romantic.
All right, who's next for questions?
You are.
Me?
Yes.
All right. Well,
We
this
both
one's
want.
off base. This is more directed for when you direct. What do you do to stay calm when a project isn't going as you planned?
Well, you might be able to help me answer this too, because you've actually watched me when I direct. I don't know. How does it go when things don't quite go as planned?
That something always doesn't go as planned. I remember when we were shooting this one movie called Welcome to Dignity Pastures. Remember the power went out?
The power went
and
out
we
at the
had to run
location.
out and get a generator. And so, I mean, I think you go into problem solving mode when something pops up, and it's always just like, all right, what next? How do we pivot? You're very flexible and able to, I don't know, think, because it happens all the time. Weather can cause us to have to change and break stuff down and have to shoot it another day or shoot around things for a while. There's always something.
Storyboarding and doing shot lists and scheduling helps a lot before we go and shoot, because while I'm also directing, that's actually like when I storyboard, that's when I'm like the director coming up with the shots. I don't do it on the day. I try to have a plan when I go in, and then together we come up with like these great binders with like the shot list, the storyboard, and the time that we're supposed to shoot it to keep us on schedule. And I'll say, like, for the most part, sometimes we fall behind, but then through problem solving, we wind up like, oh, we can cut that shot and just do it in this shot instead. And that saves us like this time. And we wind up catching up and we don't lose time. And we wind up wrapping either on time or earlier. I thought I had us wrapping Gwilliam at like 6 or 7 in the morning, but I think we were finished by like 2 or 3, which was awesome.
Yeah.
That was uncommon. I might be exaggerating, but it definitely was like a couple of hours before we were supposed to wrap.
That's cool. It's beautiful when things like that work out. Because it doesn't always happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that's because like some people don't go in with a plan, and if you go in with a plan, that is sort of the foundation that you can like, okay, we have this plan, but if something goes awry, or it actually frees up my mind to come up with something new that wasn't in the original idea. Like in the movie Crowhand, we never the woman picking up her cell phone to take a picture was never in the original script. We just thought like, oh, let's do a take where she does that, So I was able to like come up with that joke, and that actually gets the biggest laugh, one of the biggest laughs in the movie. And then I think on the day when we made Gwilliam, we decided to wrap his head in the towel because I thought it would be funny because he doesn't really have much hair on top of his head. And that was like the one thing that that Bill was not like too keen on. He was like okay with everything else in the movie, but he was like, I don't know about wrapping my head in a towel. I was like, trust me, it'll be funny.
We are all glad that he chose to do it. Trust me, that really ended it with a bang. It was perfect. This is a two-parter. First, how many takes did it take to shoot the beard scene? And also, do you have a blooper reel of Gwilliam?
That's a good question. I don't know if we have a blooper reel. I'd have to like comb through the shots to see if there was. We have blooper reels of some of my other works. But to answer your first question, I think we did that in one take, because we didn't necessarily want to clean up his beard and do it again.
Yeah.
So like every now and again, there's a shot in one of our films that we have to get done in one take. In Crowhand, it was the shot where the blood is gushing out of his hand and splashing him in the face. I believe there was something like that in Content the Lo-Fi Man where we could only do it once. There's always at least, definitely in BFF Girls.
Yeah.
Like when we doused Lawrence and all that menstrual blood.
Yeah, because he was wearing like a white suit, and we had to dump blood all over him. So we were like, all right, we only have one chance to get this right. So
there's always like one shot in the movie in the movies that we do that we're like, we have to get this in one take, and I'm pretty sure that was the one. And I'm so glad that I didn't ruin it, because as soon as I saw the hand go up into frame and then just gently wipe it, I think we did a couple of dry runs, no pun intended, where like you get the right framing of the hand. But then like when we did it for real, I almost ruined the take, because I was like, that looks amazing. That looks so good. Because like it did this perfect, like, on his beard.
Oh, trust me, it's one of the most talked about shots of the film amongst our community.
It was a perfect caress for sure.
What's fun is watching that with an audience, because you first have the close up of him spitting it out, and and then you see him go like, and then you hear that was fun to see in a theater.
I would pay to see it with a group of people in a theater to see people's reactions.
That'd be awesome. If you guys have any horror fests or anything, let me know. I'll submit it so you guys can watch it.
Perfect. I'll figure out a way to make it happen.
Who wants to go next?
So my next question is not really movie related, but on your IMDb, it says that you love donuts. So what is your favorite donut, and what is Victoria's favorite snack?
Oh, what is your favorite snack?
Oh, me first.
I have thoughts, but I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I have a sweet tooth. Probably ice cream. That's the best for me.
You like
ice
cookies
cream.
too.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Well, I like junk food. I don't know.
Yeah, Tate's cookies maybe.
Tate's cookies are good. Yeah.
Geez, like I like the chocolate cream filled donuts from Krispy Kreme. I like Boston cream. Isn't that funny that I like a lot of cream-based donuts? And then also just a classic chocolate sprinkled is always good. Those are my favorite. I'm a big chocolate guy. I love chocolate.
All good choices. You can't go wrong with any of them. Those are actually some of my personal favorites as well.
I like gummy bears too.
Dom, do you want to ask your next question?
Sure. Well, everyone in the chat wants to know it, and we've talked about this at length in our lives. Would you ever want to make, I don't know, like a Bride of Chucky situation where we get a female version of Gwilliam, maybe call her, I don't know, Gwilliam and Gwyneth situation?
We thought about it. We thought about Gwendy.
Gwendy is also, that's perfect.
Gwendolyn, yeah. It'd probably have to be like an old world sounding name, so probably be Gwendolyn. We've thought about it. And like I said, we've thought about the mythos behind Gwilliam, like stuff that I don't necessarily like talk about too much or would put into a movie, but I kind of imagine him being like hundreds of years old, coming over on the Mayflower, being under the ship, servicing the repressed Puritans and stuff. But yeah, I kind of imagined him sort of like existing for centuries.
Oh my! Injected into my veins. You don't know how bad I need a feature film of this.
Yeah, that's probably why he says like you can forget your sins. There's got to be some sort of like,
oh yeah,
Catholic guilt tied into Gwilliam. Because actually, when I would do Q&As at film festivals, often people are like, "What's wrong with you? Why did you make this? Like, what's your problem?" kind of thing. And I usually just sort of quietly give this answer like, I just wanted to make a film that everybody could relate to, because of course nobody's ever gotten blown by a goblin that I know of, but everybody's had a guilty pleasure where, let's say it's Nutella. I love eating Nutella. And sometimes I'll buy a jar of Nutella, and sometimes that jar of Nutella gets eaten that night, and I feel awful and gross, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I need to wash myself and purify myself. But then you go to the supermarket, and they're like, it's 2 for $5, so you wind up buying it. That's Gwilliam, like he gets the phone number, and he's like, I need to clean myself. after experiencing that, but it also was so good that I kind of want to do it again. So that's sort of the essence of.
Gwilliam is an addiction you can't quit. You know.
What's that?
Gwilliam is an addiction you can't quit.
Yeah, it's difficult to quit. Once you've had one, you can't.
Yeah,
you can't stop.
He has a lot of repeat customers.
Yeah, so. In the quasi sequel, Gwilliam's Tips, he has like a whole schedule book, you know, where it's like suck Dan's dick, suck Mike's dick.
Right.
Scooters. He's a busy guy.
They know about him in the prison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Like he's in fact, you know, like if we wanted to, like, we can tell that guy's story, you know, because then something must have happened to him. Because when we thought about like possibly expanding it, we thought about him, like the main character getting out of jail, and then something happens where he winds up having to go back to jail, but his new cellmate is about to get out, and he's like, "You getting out? Well, if you want to get your rocks off, you know." And it's sort of like this weird passing on, you know, keeping Gwilliam, you know,
the circle of Gwilliam.
The circle of Gwilliam, exactly.
I love it.
You know, like there's a lot of things that are fun to do with short films where you can world build, but not necessarily spell it all out. Because I was listening to a podcast where somebody was talking about Gwilliam, and they were curious about the woman behind the alleyway, and they were like, "What's that all about?" And I in my head, you know, it's not in the script, but it's in my head, she is in cahoots with Gwilliam. It's a bait and switch, basically. Like she's out there, then she goes, and then Gwilliam gets to do what he's born to do.
Oh, this is awesome.
Is there a live stream right now?
Yeah, it's live streaming. There's a lot of people that have a lot of things to say. It's good. Okay. Do you want me to read some off?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. We have Josh Cole that says Dom is. We'll skip that one. Dom's very excited. Let's just say that. Let's see, next one. Okay, Jason and the Krugers asked, what is the deal with the chick who had the spikes on her button cheek, on one button cheek?
Is that
must have been, was that Wanda?
Yeah,
that must have been Wanda in the back alley.
She has spikes on her
yeah, I think that was
shorts.
Just a costume design. By the way, I saw his video. I saw his TikTok, like talking about watching Gwilliam. When I was doing a Google search, finding all these people on TikTok talking about Gwilliam, I found his video.
That's awesome. You made a funny one where you dressed up like a priest for the Church of Gwilliam.
Yeah. That was forming a little cult around him. It's kind of scary, but I'm flattered though.
All right, and then we have the people, basically, Delphina says it best. I'm going to sum it up with a comment. She said, everyone in the comment section is losing their shit, but in a good way. They're excited to be able to see the person who created this awesome short. So they're a lot of them were saying, yes, it changed their life. They're hardcore Gwilliam fans.
That's awesome. Hey, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for finding it online. Like I said, you know, we made this film 8 years ago, and it was on the festival circuit like 10 years ago, I would say. 2016 was when it was like in film festivals. So it was a lot of fun to see it play at some very prestigious film festivals, which is funny to see it play with like other, you know, esteemed short films. And then when we were doing that, we had these Gwilliam barf bags that we were giving out at the screenings, which is just a simple white sandwich bag that Tori made a custom stamp, a rubber stamp, and I would just the night before just be stamping like 500 barf bags for the screenings. So we did a lot of fun DIY stuff to promote the movies when we were at the festival screenings. But it's so cool that you guys are discovering it online. It's like it has a second life. It's kind of like when a movie played in theaters and then it got a second life on home video, you know, kind of thing. So
yeah,
all for sure. Watching it and not sending me hate mail.
Yeah, we would never.
No, none of that here. It's all good things. I'm going to go ahead and ask a second question. I know that we've been talking about Gwilliam, but I have a personal favorite in watching some of your material, and it was the Devil's Asshole. My question is, was there a real life situation that inspired that story? You know, you chili cook off. Some chilies are really hot, and they do bring some spicy poops. So does that play a part in some of this?
No, this did not happen to me in real life, but the Devil's Asshole came from, like, I participated in this horror movie competition held by the Buried Alive Film Festival in Atlanta. They were doing what they call the Cinema Challenge, where you have 13 days to make a film, but you have to draw a subgenre of horror out of a hat, and then you draw a Card Against Humanity card. So the ones that I drew out were Demon, Devil, Hell, and the Card Against Humanity that I pulled out was the LGBT community. So I was like, okay, we have to sort of, be careful with what we do. So I just decided it was, to play it safe, we just have an LGBT themed chili cook-off. And then this woman finds this spice called the Devil's Asshole in her pantry, which is a portal to hell. She puts too much in, and then it creates this chili demon, which isn't fully formed. It's just the head popping out of the but it was fun to, like, turn him into, like, well, yeah, I mean, he's gonna have an anal fixation, so he's gonna keep talking about people's assholes. Sorry, is it okay to say? Like, okay,
You're good. You're
we're
good.
talking about blowjobs before, so it's like
It's also the name of the movie.
It's also the name of the movie. Yeah, exactly. Although in Australia they called it the Devil's Arsehole, which I thought was pretty great. That there was an alternate title, but yeah, he just kept talking and talking about, like, people's assholes until, like, the woman who accidentally summoned him was like, "What's with you? Like, you keep talking about it," and he's like in denial. So it turned into this idea of, like, him accepting himself and his love of assholes. And they became friends. But the whole thing at the end where it freeze frames and that music is playing was not originally how we intended to end it. We sort of had this idea where she was pouring milk on him because milk is going to, deactivate an acid, right? Like, it's a base. So we thought, well, her pantry is a portal to hell. Her fridge must be a portal to heaven. So she gets milk from God and pours it all over him. But the wide shot that we did it in was a little underwhelming, and because it was a timed competition, we're like, well, we have to do something. So we just decided to, like, let's do a thing where they freeze frame and they have a little epilogue and tells you what happens. So my friend Jeff helped write those title cards where it said, like, she placed last in the chili competition but placed fourth in the breakdancing competition. So that one was fun. I wish it was, this is my fault, I wish it was just a little bit more cinematic, because it's a lot of, like, talking, so it feels more like a skit than a film. But I do have a soft spot for that movie because it was just, I thought it was a lot of fun writing all the dialogue and the exchanges between the two, and he just keeps getting more and more extreme the more he's in denial, where he's like, no, I'm not into assholes. The world will be mine and I'll be able to enjoy it like a delicious asshole. He's just like, it just keeps ramping up, and so that was fun to write.
If you didn't notice, Ryan, he was the demon. You were the voice of the demon.
Yes.
You did a good job.
I did the voice of the demon, and I'm also the voice of Gwilliam. In case anybody was unsure, I do the voice of Gwilliam. Doing the ADR for Gwilliam was actually a lot of fun, especially when he's not necessarily talking, but he was making, like, noises. Because I put all these Skittles in my mouth, so that way, like. And I chewed them, but I didn't swallow them, and I sort of let the saliva mix with the Skittles, so like all that disgusting noise that he makes while he's doing the deed.
Thanks, Skittles.
It was just me chomping on some Skittles and, like, going into a microphone and going.
That's too awesome. That's so simple but effective.
Yeah,
I mean, you would have never guessed it was something that simple to do that.
To make it even more hilarious, I was literally on my knees too, because, like, there's a part where he runs.
Yes, I remember.
And I had to act like I was, like, making the little gurgling noises.
And we were at a recording, weren't we?
Yeah, we were with
Eric.
Eric.
Doing the sound.
Eric Netherton, who did the sound mixing and the sound design. We did the ADR in his room, That was a lot of fun. Yeah, you were with me.
I
when we did
remember.
that.
Yeah, we did it all. Yeah. And then there was something else about the Devil's Asshole, going back to that one. The ending to it, I remember there was a struggle with the ending. And of course, it was a time competition. They only had 13 days to do it. So, you don't know what you're going to pull out of the hat. So you have to, like, you can go in with a loose story, like thinking, like, all right, I kind of want my movie to be about this. But if you pull things out of the hat that have nothing to do with that, you might be in trouble. And you might have to, like, completely redo your story and shoot it and edit it and get it all done in, like, 13 days. So anyway, you guys did struggle with the ending, and I remember you being like, we're going to do, freeze frames at the end, and we're buying this music track. Like, I remember it was like, we're spending money on this music track. We're going to buy this music track, and it's going to make it all work. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't believe, but he pulled it off. It was such a good ending. And I was like, wow, I didn't have that vision, but you made it work. Like, I just remember being really impressed.
I definitely get questions a few times when I make films. I definitely remember my friend Blake, who's like a pretty big collaborator. He produces, he does production design. He helped create the Gwilliam puppet. When I pitched him the idea for Gwilliam, he was like, are you sure you want to do this? This is really the next thing you want to do? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So
that's right. Yeah.
But I have had ideas where people were like, no, we are not making that movie. Yeah. Remember Diarrhea?
Yeah, I remember.
Where a guy who can't go to the bathroom is told by someone at his office, he's like, people like, sometimes they purge when they grow up. You just stick your finger up there and pull the trigger and it should let it go. But you can't hold it for more than 3 seconds. And then for some reason, he puts his finger up his butt and pulls the trigger, but he holds it for too long, so he can't stop diarrheaing.
Mm-hmm.
That is an epic concept right there.
But I was told, no, we cannot make that film. So
there were so many reasons why we couldn't make that movie.
Like logistically, that would be very difficult to like set up a rig to have somebody constantly diarrheaing.
Yeah, and like the room was supposed to fill up.
Yeah, I did have him like in a doctor's office, and it was definitely like there's definitely like a couple of feet up, and the doctor's like, I don't know what to do.
And I've never seen this movie, but the movie Thinner, like I was thinking like that, but with diarrhea, like this person's just like
yeah. But those ideas wound up kind of going into BFF Girls, which dealt with period blood.
Okay, yeah. So
I did get my liquid lunch, so to speak. Sorry, everyone.
I have like a short two-parter. Do you still have the Gwilliam puppet? Is my first question.
You should say that.
No.
You have it right.
Oh my God.
Just stick my hand up his butt.
Yeah. Do you want to give a shout out to Blake for making?
Shout out to Blake Myers.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Oh, wait, let me do the thing. Very simple eye mechanic in the head. When we did Gwilliam and Gwilliam's tips, the mouth is very limited in its movement. I can basically just go like, nyah, 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 nyah. But when he spoke in the film, we actually like augmented it digitally. My friend Jeff, who's done all my visual and special effects for a number of years, he was able to like accentuate his mouth. So even more so in Gwilliam's tips, you see him. And he also like digitally blinks like the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. But yeah, we got him in his little leisure suit because I thought that would be funny for Gwilliam's tips to like have his tiny trash can be actually this great bachelor pad. So
yeah, he's got Hugh Hefner vibes for sure.
We'll keep him here.
Yeah, we should talk about his construction a little bit though, because Blake did such a good job bringing Gwilliam to life.
Luke Godfrey.
And Luke
Godfrey and Spencer Murrell, Alyssa Myers. There was a whole team.
A lot of people
together.
Brought him to life.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think the first thing. Gwilliam was a drawing first.
Yeah, it was a drawing from Kevin, and then you drew a drawing.
I did a really detailed. Can I use this as a picture? Do you have a better picture of this? Yeah. So picture of Gwilliam that's on the poster. Gosh, I need to find the original drawing, but this is like a spiffed up version of it. But this is the original flyer for Gwilliam, or the poster for it.
Yeah.
Drawing of Gwilliam with him like holding the roses and stuff. So I drew that, and then this. Once I drew this, everybody was like, "That's Gwilliam. That's what he should look like." And this is exactly what the model was based off of. And they did. I don't know. It's such a great job of just bringing this drawing to life.
Down to the
did a
gross
great
stringy
job.
hair. But they had all these like little these gross liver spots on his head. You know, he's disgusting.
Yeah.
But that's really what he does.
Yeah.
So.
And so his head was a model out of clay, and
then they made a mold, and then I think they poured like silicone because he's kind of like bendy. Yeah. He's flexible.
Yeah.
But yeah, the head is just this. The hands are made from a different material that kind of bends. But there was also like a separate armature that had like a claw kind of thing on the bottom, so you can actually like pull the strings, and then he does that thing. So that's why when he does the thing with the beard, that was actually like pulling some strings and stuff. But yeah, it's the same head from both Gwilliam films. These are new hands that were made for the
just for the second one.
Second one,
yeah. But I think the body got lost.
The body kind of like fell apart.
Yeah.
Because it's a budget, so like this definitely like has endured, but like his body fell apart definitely. And I don't know where his original suit is. His like gross little tan suit.
He had a little suit.
Yeah. He always had a suit. And then one of my absolute favorite shots in Gwilliam is the shot of his little feet running across. And that was just us. That was Blake holding two sticks with those like, and the pants were hiked up, and he just like put the little shoes on the bottom of the sticks.
Went like this.
And literally, it was like the first take, and he like nailed it. Where it's like his little feet, like was like perfectly composed in the shot. Like we did other passes, but they weren't as good as that first one. So it's sometimes you're lucky on the first take.
Yeah, that's so incredible. Thank you for pulling out the Gwilliam doll and showing us all and everyone in the chat. We really appreciate it.
On my way home, I was like, "Oh, we have the puppet. We should totally show them. I'm sure they'd love it." When we were raising funds for Gwilliam, we did it on Indiegogo, and we were like coming up with all these prizes to give out to people. So one of them we did was, sadly, there are no more of these. This is my only one, but we made Gwilliam finger puppets.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we made like this was the color of his suit, but we also had like solid color ones. We made a rainbow one for Pride Month.
Yeah, one of them glue in the dark.
There was a few that glue in the dark, yeah. And we also made like crow totems from Crowhand that we gave out as prizes. And then for years we had stickers. We had enamel pins made that were given out as prizes, little pin
tiny
for your denim jacket.
We should also shout out Rachel Darius, who made the Gwilliam finger puppets, and she's a really talented artist and sculptor, and she's helped us out on a lot of film projects.
Yeah, Rachel's awesome. Rachel took this crow totem that we really discovered for the movie Crowhand and adapted it so it's an original thing, because this thing, I had no idea what it was. It turns out it's a keychain from the game BioShock. But I just thought this like cool little crow thing we found on the ground one day. But yeah, she took it and adapted it.
It even has a little
nice
on it.
So. That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's too awesome. I love it.
Keep him here.
Yeah, he can.
Nice family portrait.
Oh yeah. Oh, Gwilliam. He's the goat. He's the original Hawktua, right?
Yeah, I saw that video. Oh my god.
But yeah, my second part question is a real quick one. What did you use for the fake semen? If you don't mind me asking.
Fused silica. That's what was used. Originally, it was going to be like tapioca pudding or something, or tapioca, but it didn't quite work out. So I was told by Luke Godfrey, who helped out with the mold of Gwilliam's head. I was told it was fused silica, so it's not something that was edible.
Okay, cool. Thanks for clearing that up. Thank you for telling me.
I'm pretty sure that's what was used for Gwilliam's tips too, because I'm sure everybody remembers the scene where he pours himself a nice cup of juice from his bottle.
Yeah.
the idea of ending that one came from my brother, because I think we were just originally going to have him slowly poured over his head, but we kept doing the takes, and I was like, this isn't working. And he said, he had this shorthand with me. He said, why don't we airplane it? Meaning like, what's the guy from Airplane, the movie Airplane? Robert. It's not Robert Stack, but it's the other guy. The guy who's like the lead. Anyway, he's like the one who has a drinking problem where he goes to drink, tries to take a drink, but it keeps hitting his face. That's what we said. Like, let's just have him like throw it in his face. So, and that always gets the biggest like groan in the theaters after he does that.
It was an incredible scene.
Thank you.
Monique, do you want to go next with your question?
What was your experience like working on Hellfest?
So my job is I am a dailies workflow producer. So I work for a company. At the time they were called Sim, now they're called Picture Shop. But when we one of the jobs we had, I've done a few horror films actually where I supervised the dailies. Among them was Hellfest. Hellfest was fairly straightforward. In fact, actually, a number of our friends, like my Blake, who's like a collaborator, and Nick Morgan, who was the Chili Demon and who helped produce The Devil's Asshole and had helped on Crowhand and Content the Lo-Fi Man. All these folks like also worked on Hellfest, but they were on set doing stuff. I was just like watching footage and like making sure the dailies got processed every day. That was the extent. But my name was in the credits, which was pretty cool. The other where I did dailies were Get Out, Hellfest, Halloween Kills, and something else recently. I forget. But yeah,
The Black Phone.
it's always supposed to work. The Black Phone. Thank you. Yeah, that was it. Thank you. Yeah, we saw that one. That was pretty good.
It's actually one of my favorite horror movies.
They're doing a sequel, but sadly they're not shooting it anywhere near me. I think they're shooting it either in Canada or California. But the first one was shot in North Carolina.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of great movies shot in North Carolina, so, including Halloween Kills was one of them as well. I'm not saying that was a great movie. I'm just saying that was shot in North Carolina. So.
That's awesome. That must have been a really fun experience working on all that working all those horror movies.
Oh, it's cool when you work on like a movie. It was fun being in the production office for Halloween Kills. The Blumhouse people were there, and we got to see the director and the DP. And it's like, to watch them watch test footage and get excited about it. I was like, oh, this is just like me. This is what I do. Only they're getting millions of dollars to make their movie, and I get hundreds of dollars to make my movie. If I'm lucky, yeah. And then Crowing cost like $200, and The Devil's Asshole cost $1,000, but most of that money was for that song.
That's right. Half of that money.
Yeah, half of the money was for the song.
I remember half the budget.
It was worth it. Absolutely. Gwilliam cost about $8,000, I think. We originally had a budget of $7,000, but the Indiegogo actually reached its goal of $7,000, and I think it went over $1,000, which was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. It's like the first time it ever happened for us, where we actually surpassed our goal. But raising funds is hard.
That's why it definitely is. But I could tell you this: within the love of the horror community on TikTok, if you ever plan on making a Gwilliam feature, I'm sure there'll be plenty of donors.
Well, that's
Gwilliam feature.
That's good to know.
All right, Dom, do you have another question?
If you have one, you can go ahead.
I read that you embrace DIY and practical effects and visual effects, and you actually spoke about that earlier. Will you continue to stay within that wheelhouse, or will you venture out more into CGI?
I mean, it all depends on what is needed. Like I said, Gwilliam is a puppet, but we use digital visual effects to have him blink and enhance his mouth movements when he spoke. So I'm always happy to blend the two. I'm not opposed to CGI, but I certainly wouldn't have it be completely CGI. It would be whatever was needed that couldn't be done practically. And if we had enough money to do it in CGI, that's how we would do it. But I do love stop motion and I love miniatures. We've done some digital matte paintings. If I could do like actual matte paintings, where you place it in the shot just so it it lines up with like your actors and stuff, like that would be cool. But I also do a lot of, we're happy to do digital. It's whatever we can muster to make it, to make the shot happen. It doesn't always come out perfect, but it's perfect to me because like these people take the time to help out and make these shots and make these movies possible. And because we're so small budget, the least I can do is make sure I'm prepared and not waste their time and feed them. And then if there is some money that comes from, I don't know, like being able to get a little money to have the film distributed, then I can try and give like some of that to people who deserved it. Or if we ever get a budget from somewhere, I think one of the trailers we made, we got like a couple of $1,000. So we used like half of it to actually like do what we needed to do. But then like the rest of it was like, oh, we were able to pay our actors and we were able to pay the person who did the visual effects and stuff. So I'm not opposed to CGI. I'm going to use whatever I can to make my movies possible. But I wouldn't expect a CGI Gwilliam anytime soon.
That's cool. Gwilliam needs to stay the way he is. He's too awesome.
He's the real deal.
Amen to that. I had a question. Do you have any, fun or funny behind the scenes stories of the filming process for Gwilliam?
Gwilliam was actually a very smooth shoot. Like I said, the one thing that Gwilliam, the actor, butted up against was wrapping his head in the towel. But and then we asked him to be naked on camera, but he was okay with that. Like we were trying to figure out a workaround, like where he didn't have to be naked because that's a big ask. But he's like, I'll just do it. It's fine. But I don't think we see anything. I think it's obscured by the shower curtain. But
Yeah,
he's in that shower and he's naked. But I know that was like a very long weekend. Like I think the first thing we shot was the prison and the hotel room, which were literally in the same space. It was just like prison's over here, and then the hotel room is over here. Then the next morning, we did the tavern where they go into the Gwilliam's Tavern, G's Tavern. Sorry, spoiler alert. G's Tavern is Gwilliam's Tavern. He owns the building. Figure out how that works. But he lives in the garbage can behind the building. Then we took like a long break and like took a nap because then we caravanned like an hour outside to shoot the whole alleyway scene because that was an overnight shoot. And then we finished around like 4 a.m. maybe. Then we slept in for a little bit and then we went to our friend's house to shoot the shower scene. And then that night we like hightailed it to like this bar that had a really great rundown exterior, and we just like stole that exterior shot. But we made sure like to digitally remove like the name of the bar, so they weren't like, hey, that's not our bar. What's our bar doing in that movie? And I also think we actually shot an exterior of like a seedy looking motel, but that didn't make it into the movie. And then there was one other time where we tried to shoot the exterior of a prison. But these people came up to us. This guard came up to us. He's like, "You can't film this," and they wanted us to delete the footage. And I was like, "Oh, all right, fine." So we wound up not using those exterior shots. But I didn't feel like it was needed. I feel like the bar was the only one that really needed the exterior. Was that it? Oh no, I'm sorry. There was like the second weekend where they stole like a shot of like outside, like going into a trash can, right before you see the first shot of Gwilliam. And then all the stuff of like Gwilliam's close-ups and then the shot of him running, that was all done at my friend's house in his basement. So you'll notice like every shot of him where he's like doing his business is against a black void. And that's because it was not shot that same day we were doing all the overnight stuff. Mm-hmm. It was a completely separate day because I thought it's probably best to not do all these shots of the puppet when we have an actor here and we have all this crew. We can go somewhere inside where we can control the lighting. And then, because the movie is like that strange enough. And because I'm sure a lot of people are not really focused on like, hey, that's a black background because of what he's doing, I felt like it was fine to just shoot in someone's basement against like a black backdrop. So there you go. I'm pretty sure that was everything. But yeah, it was over a couple of weekends.
That's awesome. Thanks for the insight. Yeah. Trust me, we're loving all of this lore, and I know I'm speaking for the people in the comments, but this clears up a lot of questions.
Cool. Yeah, happy to talk about as much as I can about him. Oh, actually, I'll give you another little tidbit about him, who he is as a person. In Gwilliam's tips, he says his grandma Gwilma says it's better to give than to receive, and that's true. He is incapable of receiving. He can only give. Because when we were thinking about elaborating the story, we were going to have this scene where the convict character wants to, like, please Gwilliam, and Gwilliam is like, no, trying to push him away, and then he finds out like he doesn't have anything, and his whole like he is incapable of receiving. He can only give.
That's part of the mythos.
That's part of the mythos. That isn't exactly like spelled out in other things. But what was fun about doing Gwilliam's tips was we actually got a small budget to make that movie. And I didn't really necessarily want to just do a sequel. And it was tied in with this Halloween special that was touring theatrically. So people wanted to just see another Gwilliam short. So I thought, oh, it'd be nice for him to give tips on trick-or-treating. And then I thought, like, he should have a grandma. And that's who should have raised him, was his grandma Gwilma. So we had our friend Britton Kramer do that wonderful painting of Grandma Gwilma.
It's such a great painting,
too. You've made it when you find like a Chinese bootleg of the Grandma Gwilma art for sale on Amazon.
Wow, I might have to order one.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, that's his artwork on Amazon by some bootleg company. I was like, that's kind of cool, I guess. But I definitely let him know. I was like, you should probably report this.
Yeah.
So that way, you get the funding.
Actually, haven't you found a lot of your stuff bootlegged or on?
Yeah.
I
found Welcome to Dignity Pastures on YouTube with Korean subtitles and description for hearing for visually impaired or something like that. And then I found a Russian dub of Content the Lo-Fi Man. Yeah. Where two people do all the voices. There's one woman and one man, and they do all the voices. So I try to pull those off of YouTube and have them as downloads just in case they get pulled. Yeah. But
it's something you make something and then it goes, somebody in a totally different country is picking it up and making a dub of it. You're oh, this is crazy.
Well, I saw somebody on TikTok made a Gwilliam t-shirt, and I was like, I want that,
Right.
I can't remember who did, but it's pretty sure it was one of the people from the Horror Talk community, started making this Gwilliam t-shirt design. Mm-hmm. I forget who did it, but yeah, I was like, holy moly, somebody's making Gwilliam shirts and I'm not getting a cut of it.
There was a band that made a song about
That's right.
Crowhand.
There was this band in New Zealand that saw our movie Crowhand. And they just made a song about Crowhand, and they mailed me a record. So I have their record, Ginzu and the Steak Knives, I think was the band name.
Which is a cool name, for a band.
And then somebody in Saskatchewan cosplayed as Crowhand, the guy with the taco shirt and the crow.
Oh, they dressed as
they dressed as that. And I think Gwilliam has made appearances on Creepshow in the background. And the poster for Gwilliam has been seen behind Darcy, the mail girl, in some episodes of The Last Drive-In. That's because my friends Blake and Nick work on that show and do set dressing. So they made sure to put as much of my stuff in the background as possible, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I'll have to check that out the next time I watch Creepshow because that's one of my faves, and I didn't see that, but I'll have to pay attention next time.
I think it was this episode with this horror museum or museum of oddities or something like that.
I know what you're talking about. Yes. All right. Yeah.
This exact guy is in the background. So, yep. Be on the lookout.
Definitely gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah, it's just funny where he pops up.
All right. Well, I know you mentioned Content, the Lo-Fi Man. That is the new short you have out, right? It's been out for a few months now. For people that aren't familiar with it, you want to give them a little insight about what it's about?
Yeah, Content, the Lo-Fi Man is, let's see, it starts out as a documentary where I am trying to talk about the movie Tetsuo the Iron Man, and then I get interrupted by some malignant forces that are in charge of all things media, and I get replaced with a new and improved Brian Lonano, who's fast talking and smash that like button, and he kind of has a short circuit when every time he says film, he gets electrocuted and is conditioned to stop using the word film and start using the word content, which I take issue with a lot of people using that word to describe like film and television. It's like, no, I don't make content. I make film. Content sounds like sludge, sounds like oatmeal and stuff. So eventually he has a short circuit, and now he's in this dystopian world where he's under guard by like fascist looking stormtroopers with Mickey Mouse ears, and he has to eat this sludge that's made from 100% recycled content. He breaks free after he refuses to eat the sludge, and he comes across these underground filmmakers who escaped the world of content creation, but they fall under attack by a robot called a content seeker, and he joins up with them, and he undergoes a transformation just like in the movie Tetsuo the Iron Man, where he becomes the Lo-Fi Man, but instead of merging with metal, he's merging with like video equipment and film strips and stuff like that. So we do this whole homage to Tetsuo the Iron Man where he actually transforms into the Lo-Fi Man. And at the end, he battles the robot kind of like a giant like Kaiji battle thing. And that movie's like 15 minutes long. So it sounds like very, very long as I describe it, but that's all that happened.
I liked it. I enjoyed it throughout the whole thing. The ending reminded me of much. That movie is a real reference, correct? The one that you mentioned, that's from
Tetsuo the Iron Man. Yes, it's a real movie.
That you can tell the inspiration was pulled from that when you did basically the battle royale between them.
Yeah,
I thought that was neat. Now, for his costume, how much time did that take for him to get that on?
The first day we shot, I think maybe it took like an hour. But the way Tony and Blake designed it was they put it in these inventive pieces. So that way it's like, okay, they're going to use a hoop skirt for the bottom half of him. And then for like the head, it's literally like a bald cap that they put on that has like the film strip going out like hair. And then they have like goggles that are his lens eyes. And then all the other stuff, I think they use like shoulder pads from like a football gear, and they just like zip tied and attached all these cameras. And then as he was like, he wore like these heavy duty rubber gloves that had like lenses and pieces of equipment attached to them. And he had like little camcorders on his shoulders, like gun turrets, kind of like the Predator. They just kept zip tying stuff to him. That costume is so cool. It actually, our film got nominated for best costumes at the Film Quest Film Festival last year in Salt Lake City. And I was like really happy about that because I thought the costumes in the movie were so cool. Not just the Lo-Fi Man, but the robot and the punkers and the stormtrooper outfit. It was cool to see Toniette and Blake get recognized for their work on the movie.
Yeah, they did a great job. All of it, and some of it kind of reminded me a little bit of Spaceballs, especially when you see the one gentleman come out after they're eating the cereal and has like the Mickey Mouse. It almost reminded me of Spaceballs, and I loved it.
Awesome. Funny enough, Spaceballs is the very first movie I saw in theaters when I was a kid. I was like 4 years old when I saw that. That was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theaters, was Spaceballs.
That's awesome. Dom, do you have another question?
Yes. Me and a couple of friends plan on doing a short film down the line, and we wanted to know if we could get your blessing to do a little homage, tip of the cap, with like a Gwilliam graffiti in the background somewhere. just to pay respect to your work.
If you want, you can do the whole for a good time, go out back kind of thing. XOXO, Gwilliam.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wouldn't do it until you okayed it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I appreciate any homage is cool in my book. So, and
Awesome.
if you go online, people would be like, "Hey, it's Gwilliam," or they're like, "I don't know what that means." Whatever.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I have to say, a lot of people have called the number, and unfortunately, Gwilliam does not pick up.
Yeah, we thought about, like, I think we ran out of time, or we just got too busy. But we did contemplate like creating a Google like call number and have it go to voicemail, but we never got around to doing that, unfortunately. But that would have been cool. We were trying to do all these other things like to promote the movie, but unfortunately that was one thing that fell by the wayside. So sorry, everyone.
Oh, it happens.
It's too late though. You could
That's
always
true.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, the
set it
fact
up
that it's
and-
like 9
Yeah,
years, people are
They
still
did
watching.
use that. They did do that for that long legs. That was one of their promos where if you called the number, Nicolas Cage would answer as long legs. So
Oh,
you
that's-
could do a Gwilliam special if you'd ever like in the future.
Yeah. We thought about like William Saves Christmas, where he has to blow Santa because
Oh my God! Why, don't even tell him. I need to see
he
it
doesn't
now.
want to give gifts anymore. So William gives him like the greatest gift, and now he's like, "Oh, I'm inspired to give again." That's it. That's the whole thing. I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's the fun. Yeah, that's the thing. Like Gwilliam and the Devil's Asshole, they kind of have this wholesome, and BFF Girls too. Like they have this wholesome quality to them. You know, it's not punching down on people.
Right.
Though I'm sure people will be like, it's disturbing that like William kind of like forces himself onto this guy. So I get that. But I don't know. This is how it came to be.
It happened.
Yeah. I love that shot. There's a shot of Bill struggling with the puppet in this wide shot, and he kind of has this look on his face that said he's really like forcing himself on you. So like try to like react.
Well, he's little. Come on.
Priceless. Yeah.
He's so little.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's
And also,
so silly about it.
It's also it kind of reminds me of like that scene in Ed Wood where Bela Lugosi has to like act with those tentacles that don't work. He's literally like trying to keep a puppet that's not moving like away from him. So it's kind of funny. Like that's that part of that low budget charm.
I totally agree. That's so awesome.
Monique, do you have any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
About Dom.
I'm sorry. What'd you
What's your
say?
thought about the short you want to make?
I'm sorry. One more time.
What's the short that you want to make? What is it about?
It is. It's not my idea. It's one of my buddy's idea. It's like a Christmas horror related. I don't want to air his idea because it's not mine. I'm just helping him produce it.
That's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. If you don't want to share, I understand about not wanting to share an idea until, first of all, it's not your idea, but like there's something about sharing an idea before it's totally ready and it's not quite there yet. So
I can share I did film a long short film that I wrote, The Chauffeur. It's basically if you took an Uber and ended up at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, that's completely filmed. So I could talk about that. Then I also have an Italian mob horror that's being filmed next month called Underbelly.
Ooh, that is cool. Are they both short films?
The one is like a 26-minute short film that I'm going to do festival circuit, and the one coming up is basically just like a short proof of concept to try to make it into a feature.
That's great. They both sound really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope they just live up to Gwilliam.
All right, Monique, go ahead and shoot your question.
How did you come up with the concept for Crowhand?
Okay, so Crowhand is partially a true story. The title card at the beginning says based on a true story, which always has people being like, yeah, right, that's based on a true story. But it was, kind of. So we were at a festival in 2014, and 10 years ago, actually. 10 years ago in April, we got our passes and we walked to the car, and I looked down on the ground and I saw this. Oop, there it is. So I was like, I thought it was like a weird chess piece thing, but I was like, "Hun, look at this thing. It's so cool. It looks like a crow." And it was just on the ground. And she was like, "That's really creepy. Don't pick it up." And I said, what's going to happen? So I joked that because I didn't listen to her, the totem cursed my hand and it transformed into a crow, and I yelled out "crow hand." And we both had a laugh and we said, that we should do that. That's a really funny idea for a movie. And then like a month later, I wrote the script and it was like 1 page. And then like two months later after that, we were shooting it. And then 2 months after that, we were done and we were submitting it to festivals. And when we were editing it, I was like, I have a good feeling about this one. It's short. It's like 2.5 minutes. It's silly and stupid. And the gag with the phone gets a big laugh. And I was like, I think this movie's going to be like something special. And it wound up like getting into like 70 something film festivals, including South by Southwest, which was like probably the biggest festival we had ever gotten into at that point in my career. So this was like film number 9, and we got into South by Southwest with it. So when we went, we treated it as if like, well, this is never going to happen again. We'll never get into a festival this big again. So when we went, we made like Crowhan shirts, and we also made flyers to promote the movie. Hold on, I'm looking through my scrapbook here. Pull this out. Tori made these flyers to advertise the screening. It's like, have you seen this thing? And we give the dates and time for when it screens at the festival. And at the theater, we would take the prop. My friend Rachel, who designed this, we'd asked her to make a few more, and we actually planted them in the theater, like a couple in the theater, to see if anybody would find it and pick it up, because that's the whole joke of the movie is like, do you pick up something weird on the ground or in your seat or something? And then we said like, if you find it, we'll give you a Crowhan t-shirt. But most people were like, I kind of want to keep this. This is really cool. I was like, okay, good to know. So every now and again, like we would have these to give out. One person who owns one of these is Elijah Wood. We saw him at a film festival, and I was talking with somebody, and I had mentioned I did Crowhan, and I heard him say like, "You made Crowhan?" I was like, "Yeah, you've seen it?" He's like, "Yeah, I had to watch it. I watched it with my friend who was like screening it for South by Southwest." I was like, "Oh, cool. Well, do you want a crow totem?" And he was like, "Sure." But I never got a picture of him with the crow totem. I was like, I should have gotten a picture, because it's my word against his now. He has the crow totem. But yeah, anyway, that was the whole the Crowhan. And it's definitely one of my favorite ones. I know it's really stupid and silly, but I just love that the idea literally was at my feet, and it just spawned this silly, stupid idea. And I hope it's inspiring to people, because like if you come up with a stupid joke that makes you and your friends laugh, it could make other people laugh too. And it might be worth like shooting and making into a movie. Because like there were definitely times where I would have an idea, I'd be like, I can't do that. That's too silly. I'm trying to do these kinds of films. But sometimes a silly idea like that can really resonate with people. I mean, Gwilliam is case in point. For a while, we held on to that idea because I was like, I don't even know if like we should make this as a movie. It's too out there, and it's the most like sexually grotesque film I've ever made. And I wasn't making those kinds of films, and I haven't made films like that since. But I have been making films that tend to try to evoke reactions out of the audience, because I realized, if you can make something really funny or really like stupidly gory or really like shocking in a fun way, you could really make a splash. You really stand out in the crowd. And that's how we felt with Crowhan, and that's how we felt with Gwilliam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we've been trying to do with our films ever since, like BFF Girls and The Devil's Asshole and Content, the Lo-Fi Man. So
there's another part about Crowhan that was really good too, was when it played at South by Southwest. you know, it was probably one of the roughest looking films there, stacked up against like other films that had like shot on really nice cameras. And we saw that. And first of all, it felt really good to get like a really rough film in there. You know, we were like, oh my gosh, thank goodness they took it. Like, that's amazing that it got in. But it also made me say to Brian, like, we have to shoot whatever we get next. We've got to get a really good camera. Otherwise we aren't going to be able to like compete against films. So for Gwilliam, we did get a better camera. We upgraded for sure. I don't remember if we rented it or if we borrowed.
We rented it.
Yeah, we rented a camera, and I think that helped us really elevate the quality of Gwilliam and all of our movies afterwards.
Gwilliam definitely looks more cinematic than Crowhand does. Crowhand looks like rough like that on purpose because I was also trying to emulate like rough around the edge short films that I would see on like atomfilms.com or on IFC. You know, there was a time where like short films didn't have to look so polished like the way they do now. So that was definitely what we were going for. But yeah, the quality of work sandwiched in between Crowhand was like this short by a filmmaker named Jillian Horvat, who made a feature called I Blame Society, which is really good. But she did this movie called Kiss Kiss Finger Bang that had Anton Yelchin in it. Then Crowhand played. And then after that was a short called Interesting Ball that was directed by Daniels, who did Everything Everywhere All at Once. So like we're all up there at the Q&A, and it's like I'm up there with like stupid Crowhand, and like Daniels are next to me, and like Jillian's over here, and there's a couple other filmmakers that like wound up like doing some pretty big things after that too. So it's just funny. You never know what company you keep when you get into some of these film festival screenings. That's
such a cool and interesting story.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty fun experience.
It was, and originally, William got into South by Southwest the year after too. We got a phone call from the director of the shorts programmer, and she's like, "Yeah, nobody's doing like crazy shorts like you are. Like it's awesome." But we haven't been able to play there ever since. But it's still really cool that we got a shot to play there like back to back in 2015 and 2016. So. But yeah, having that sort of emboldened me to keep trying to do daring, you know, movies and tackling potentially taboo subjects. Like the movie we made after that was BFF Girls, and that talks about periods and tampon monsters and stuff like that.
Do you have any plans for like any upcoming films?
Not at the moment. I have ideas, but like I haven't started writing anything yet. We bought a house, so that's been kind of the focal point of our lives right now, and getting used to living out here. But I certainly would like to get back to making something soon. Content, the Lo-Fi Man, was finished like last year, and it played festivals last year, and that was my 17th short film. So I'm kind of wondering if it's time to like move into the next phase of my filmmaking career. So that could mean like features. So I'm not sure, but I have ideas for features. I just have to like sit down and start writing is the thing. And that's always the hardest part, is sitting down and writing.
I totally get where you're coming from on that one. But I'm sure whatever you plan on doing, it's going to be a success.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll see. You never know. But because you don't know what like strikes a chord with people and others don't quite resonate with people. Like I was pretty positive like Gwilliam would not resonate with people. It would be like more of like a this movie is reviled kind of thing. But it was like quite the opposite. Like more people have come up to me saying they love this movie more than people have come up to me saying they hate this movie, which I thought was so interesting. And it has to be something with like the subject matter. Like, I'm not sure, why is it that you guys love Gwilliam so much? What is it about it that, like, that's my question actually. It's like, what is it that attracts all of you to love Gwilliam so much?
Honestly, like if you break it down, it's basically a love story, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's what we talk about a lot. Obviously, it's a goblin giving a guy a head, and then the beard thing. That's hilarious. It's perfect. but then the ending scene wraps it in a bow, like when he just has the towel on his head, and that's just like, middle school girl, bubbly little energy he has. Like it's truly like a rom-com, very dirty romantic comedy in a way.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were going for. I think our subject line was not quite the Frank Henenlotter Bad Biology log line, which was a god awful love story, but it was something like that. It wasn't god awful, but it was like a disgusting love story between a man and a goblin. Yeah, I think that's how we pitched it.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly.
For me, it was unexpected. It was the shock value of it, and that made it intriguing because you're like, are you going to go there? And then it does go there, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, this is different. It was refreshing, but in a good way.
Yeah, one of the things that people get so grossed out, I believe, is the profile shot of the back of his head. All of a sudden he's poking out of the back of his head, which has, definitely has you thinking, like, what is Gwilliam made of?
What's his head made of?
What is his head made of? Like, not as a puppet, but as like a creature. Like, like he has a soft head, which I guess makes for better pleasure. And then some other people were quite grossed out by the vomit orgasm that Bill has.
Yeah,
in
that's
the movie.
right.
Like, he throws up and then he orgasms. It's such a mess.
This movie is so gross.
It's like you're trying to talk about it like intellectually, and like, yes, and then when he has the coitus
Vomit.
expulsion. Yeah, exactly. It's silly.
That's too awesome. Do you guys have any other questions that you want to add in before I do my last one?
I do not. I've asked plenty of Gwilliam questions.
I do not. I went through my list of questions already.
All right. Mine's kind of a two-part, but the first one would be, what advice do you have for upcoming screenwriters, like directors, stuff that wants to get into the same avenue as shorts?
Well, it's not like an overnight thing. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's rarity. Crowhan and Gwilliam were my 9th and 10th short films, and those are the ones that really broke through and resonated with people. I love all my other films that I made before that, but they didn't quite hit that level of success. So it takes some time, and that was like 5 years, I think, between when I graduated school and started making the short Casket Climber, Insect God, all the way to Gwilliam was like 10 years. So there's a lot of try and try again, I would say, if it's something you love doing. I love making films because I love filmmaking. I'm not necessarily trying to make a career out of it. I'm trying to have a body of work so that I can look back and be like, yeah, I had a job and that helped pay the bills and stuff, but I also was able to make these films while I was around. I had a friend who passed away too young, and he was very talented, and that sort of lit the fire in me to be like, I have to get my films made, and I have to get them out there, and I have to keep trying and just like keep making things sort of compulsively. So the more work you make, like, the better you'll get. And, when you're on set, like, don't be a dictator, listen to people, have your vision, but also listen to people, because sometimes they'll be able to give you a suggestion that'll even make the scene better. And trust your collaborators. Don't micromanage. Feed your cast and feed your crew. Try to go in with a plan. You don't have to have perfect drawings. You can just do stick figures to get the idea across. Schedule your shots. Just take your time. It's going to take a while sometimes, to really break through, especially if like you didn't go to NYU or USC, sometimes might take you a lot to practice to make a lot of films. And you sort of, when you do that, you all of a sudden you have a body of work and you have a style. Like, I would say, the films I made when I was starting out are kind of similar to the films I made now, aesthetically. They feel like they are cut from the same cloth, except like, oh, this one has a better camera, but like the ideas are there, or like the things I like are still in there, like the kinds of like effects and the artificiality of filmmaking I really love, and I feel like that shows in my work. So take your time, and like, it's not an overnight success. Make as many things as you can, and it doesn't have to be with a big camera. It could be with an iPhone. It's amazing what you can do with an iPhone. But you can also, if you have some money, you can shoot on film, or you can shoot on mini DV. Whatever you can do to make your project, make it. There's plenty of amazing films out there that are shot on VHS or iPhones. The movie Tangerine was shot on an iPhone. That's a great film. And if there's a will, there's a way, and you just keep trying. That's the advice.
That was beautifully said. Thank you. And my last question is, what's your upcoming plans for 2025? I know you mentioned briefly that you want to kind of get back into it because you've had some stuff that you had going on. Do you have anything on the table for 2025 coming up, or is it in the works?
It's in the works. There's a couple of projects. I don't want to quite go into them yet, but I definitely have like a couple of ideas for features. There's some feature ideas that my brother wants to write. And I don't know. I'm very excited to get back into writing something, because that's when I feel the best. Like when I'm not working on something, I don't feel too great. And those negative thoughts creep into your head. But when I'm busy, I am happy. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get to the table and start writing down some ideas soon. I did write like half a page the other day, and I have a lot of notebooks, and I'm like, I'm going to write so much into these, and I haven't done it yet. So I'm looking forward to filling up those notebooks with ideas and stuff, and just start the next leg of my career, because I feel like these last 17 years have been really good, and now it's time for phase 2 of the Brian cinematic universe.
I look forward to it, and I can't wait. For the rest of you, Dom, Moni, do you have anything in closing you would like to add?
I just want to thank both you, Brian and Victoria, for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it. It was so much fun, and thank you for sharing so much insight on Gwilliam. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Good luck with your projects.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Are there any questions from the chat? Does anybody have any burning questions they need answered?
Oh man, the chat has been going off like a lot. There is, let's see, let's scroll up. Let's
a lot of
actually,
comments.
you know what? We're just going to say it's a lot of comments, but we're going to say if you guys are game to answer some questions from the comments,
yeah, we
that.
love to.
All right. So you guys heard it. If you guys have questions for Brian and Victoria, now's your time. Put them in the comment section, and we'll ask them, and they'll give you some answers. All right. We'll give them a couple minutes to do that.
I hope that doesn't spoil your plans to kick us off the show yet.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm good. If everyone else is good, just like I mentioned earlier, every once in a while I have to go and check on the kids. So if you see my screen go blank, that's why. But I'll give them a minute. There we go. Delphina's with the first one. Where can we watch his films? I'll let you
They are in a few places. So like Gwilliam and Content the Lo-Fi Man and William's Tips are all on Alter, but they're also on my personal YouTube, which I just set up some playlists today. I have a playlist for my short films that I did on film, trailers and clips, and then the Brian Lonano archive, which has a lot of like outtakes and bloopers and stuff like that. And that's youtube.com/Brian Lonano. I have a website, brianlonano.com. And then if you have the streaming service Arrow, which is kind of like the Criterion channel, but for like cult cinema, and it's by Arrow Video. If you guys collect physical media, they do a lot of great releases. They programmed all of my work on their streaming service, so you can watch it there too if you have a paid subscription to Arrow.
All right. And then anyone else have any questions? I know there's been a lot of comments. It's all in reference to primarily Gwilliam. They're very pumped. They're very excited. I'll give them a few more minutes to let them go through. Nikki mentioned that you guys are awesome, and she said thank you for being on here. And if you guys are on TikTok, she invited you to come hang out in the TikTok universe where they always praise Gwilliam. That's what they label it as all the time. So I'm quoting. That's right.
I've looked, I've dabbled. We almost did a TikTok account for the fake Brian in Content the Lo-Fi Man, but we never like followed through with that. But I've seen some of your guys' videos and they're crazy. There's one that says like the Church of Gwilliam. There's like a shot of Gwilliam like dressed like this, and he's like dancing. Like somebody must have like put it over like the Gwilliam skin over this person dancing. I have no idea how that was done. I was like both.
Yeah, we
like,
were really.
I was flattered and disturbed by it. Yeah.
Well, the fact that somebody took the time to make
I know.
that was more
Yeah.
touching. You know,
It's
that's
crazy.
amazing.
And somebody else was like lying in their bed. They were like, "Praise be to Gwilliam." It's like, whoa.
Well, I'm glad that you saw me and my buddy Josh's video in the alleyway when he was looking for Gwilliam.
Yeah.
I did the voiceover for Gwilliam. Not as good as you did, but I tried my best.
DOG Gwilliam.
That's too awesome. All right, so I'm going to wrap up the live part of it, and then you guys don't go anywhere. I will wrap up with you guys separately. But to everyone watching, thank you so much, and we will put his links so that we can view his material in the comment section once we wrap up. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you guys back here on Friday. And look, even Gwilliam's giving you a little goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Peace and love and jobs.